Hello everyone, welcome back. It is our second live stream of the night. Well, technically it is early morning here in the UK. So yeah, we have a Vulcan Centaur rocket going off. So this is ULA's brand new rocket. So this is a heavy lift launcher. I think they actually said, did they say medium? It's a medium to heavy lift rocket. So as you can see on the lovely thumbnail we've got these two solid rocket boosters on the side. Now it can be equipped up to 6 of these, depending on, you know, the size of said payload. So yeah, we are going to be watching it. We are about what's the time right now? 25 past. So we are about T-minus 50 minutes away from the launch. So ULA are about to start their live stream, and yeah, we're gonna sit back, relax, watch whatever they've got. I'm sure they are going to have some lovely material going on about how their new rocket is superior to the last one, and how, you know, it's going to be amazing, which it looks to be amazing. Oh, here we go. So it has actually started. Well, kind of. So guys, get your votes in. Will this go boom? Because, you know, it is a first launch of this rocket. Obviously they've had prototypes, they've done testing of the engines. Now the crazy thing about this is they're using the BE4 engines on the main stage. They are from Blue Origin, and they haven't actually been on anything yet. So this will be one of the first rockets, other than obviously the actually, what are they on? Oh, let me just I'm gonna cheat here, guys. I've been up all night, guys. I've literally been up all night trying to work out BE3 BE3 rocket engine. Right, let's see. Has it actually been on anything? So it's the first liquid hydrogen fueled rocket engine. So it is used in the Blue Origin rockets that they have. I'm pretty sure. Is it? Let me just quickly do. So the BE3 Blue Engine 3 is a liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen rocket rocket engine. So it's on the new Shepherd rockets, but I'm pretty sure it's on here. It may be the second stage using the BE3. I don't know. I can't find out. But anyway, the rocket will be basically it's its first run. It's its first flight. We are going back to April last year. Starship was about to fly. This is the moment where ULA are now waiting for. Oh, here we go. Woohoo! Look at that. That's what we like to see. There we go. So ULA have put United Launch Alliance hereby grants news agencies permission to use the following content without I can't even say that word, guys. It's too early in the morning for me here in the UK. Literally, it is 6, just gone 6:30 in the morning. I've been up all night. Actually, if you go back to my last live stream, this stuff here won't be here. I've been sorting stuff out in the man cave, getting ready for some new upgrades, including a ceiling, which I've been sorting out. Oh, here we go. So we have some sound. Oh, we have some sound, guys. Very quiet sound, but we have sound. So Vulcan is the bottom part of the rocket, and then Centaur is the top. Second stage, I'm guessing. Not very loud. There's 100% on my end. Oh, very quiet. You might want to turn your mics up, guys. Just going to make sure. There we go.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the safe coast of Florida. I'm NASA Tech Cruise.
Still pretty quiet.
First launch of NASA's CLIPS initiative. CLIPS is short for Commercial Lunar Payload Services, a model in which NASA contracts
I've just dropped something on the floor, guys.
To send science and technology to the moon.
It was only a
These
screw.
deliveries will mean more exploration of the moon than ever before, and will help us prepare for the first woman and first person of color to land on the lunar surface under NASA's Artemis program.
Nice.
For today's launch, NASA selected Astrobotic to deliver its 5 lunar instruments. This is the first mission for the Peregrine spacecraft. Today is also the first launch.
I love the name of that, the Peregrine.
Now we have a 45-minute launch window that opens at 2:18 and 38 seconds Eastern time. But you'll notice that clock on the upper left-hand corner.
T-minus 7.
It says T-minus 7 minutes.
Wow.
Because the ULA team is in a planned hold. Basically, they baked extra time into the countdown to make sure everything's
nice. That's pretty cool.
You'll see that clock start to count down again when we are actually 7 minutes to the opening of the launch window. Helping me to share today's... Oh, we've got robot noise.
Thanks, Megan, and good morning.
Oh, that's good
Amanda
audio.
Sterling, a structural engineer and program management leader at United Launch Alliance. I'm joining you from the Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center at Cape Canaveral.
Nice.
This is an exciting place to be as the ULA team counts down to liftoff of Vulcan's inaugural flight. Right now, the Vulcan booster and Centaur upper stage are fueled while the launch team continues final preps. As Megan mentioned, the launch count remains in a planned hold. The ULA team is currently not working any issues, and we're on track for an on-time launch at 2:18:38 a.m. Eastern.
Nice.
Coming up, Space Launch Delta 45 will provide a final weather briefing in about 15 minutes. At the moment, our weather looks good, with just a 15% probability of violation through the 45-minute launch window we have available this morning.
That's pretty good.
Now,
only 15%. That's not bad.
Amanda, it's great to hear that 85% go for today.
Oh,
now let's take a
I need to
closer
set up
look at
properly.
the Peregrine 1 spacecraft. It's about 6.2 feet tall and 8.2 feet wide, made mostly of aluminum and carbon fiber.
Is that like a little rover?
On the inside to absorb
That literally looked like a little tiny... It is like a little tiny rover.
To the top of the spacecraft.
Oh, that's so cool.
Decks at the center will carry 20 payloads from 7 countries. And finally, it has over 1 mile of cables and wiring. Our broadcast
that is pretty crazy. 1 mile.
Peregrine separation around 3:09 a.m. Eastern time, followed by acquisition of signals shortly after. For more on the company that built Peregrine, here's Astrobotics' Olivia Chapla.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks to all of you for tuning in. I'm Olivia Chapla, and I can't tell you how pleased I am to be here representing Astrobotic as the Director of Marketing and Communications. We're a small but mighty team of about 260 people. Together, our real goal is to make space accessible to the world.
Cable management's
And
not very
today, we are
good.
particularly focused on the moon. Astrobotic built the Peregrine spacecraft as part of our fleet of lunar landers designed to deliver cargo, called payloads, to the moon's surface. Over the past 3 years, I've watched the Astrobotic team build this Peregrine spacecraft launching today. I've
That
been
is
there
quite
alongside them
big.
during the long days, late nights, and for the
You could probably
ridiculous
fit a
and early
human in
mornings
there.
when we shipped Peregrine to Cape Canaveral in preparation for launch today. I am personally so excited to be here because this mission really marks the beginning of a historic time. The United States hasn't soft landed on the moon since NASA's Apollo program more than 50 years ago. And
Oh,
only
wait,
a handful
seriously?
of countries have ever successfully landed on the lunar surface. Astrobotic's aim is to not only return the American flag to the moon again with Peregrine, but also to start regular commercial.
So
lunar
this is
deliveries
actually the
to
first
moon
time
surface.
since
Now,
the Apollo
let's hear
missions.
a little more from our founder and CEO,
I
John
swear.
Thornton.
Oh no, you got India up there. You got China
Astrobotic's goal
tried.
is to make space accessible to the world, and what that means
Wow,
to us
okay.
is making it possible for space agencies and commercial organizations, and ultimately the individual all around the world, to access the moon in ways that have never been possible before. The big thing that we're known for is our 2 lunar missions to go to the surface of the moon. Our first one is about to launch, and our second one flies in 2024.
Oh,
Astrobotic
okay, that
already
was
has
shot
a wide
earlier
array of
last year.
contracts from rovers and landers, and now the beginnings of power systems that can be deployed on the surface of the moon. So we are not only
That is a
thinking about
very
lunar
large
delivery, we're
solar
thinking
panel
about the
for
next
such a
step.
small
We're thinking
structure.
about rovers that can drive. We're thinking about power systems that can deploy and provide sustaining power at the poles of the moon. These are all of the pieces that we need, the infrastructure that we need to take our next step, to make the moon a place that we can sustain, live, and have astronauts do science and exploration, and one day use the resources of the moon for in-space purposes, and perhaps eventually bring those resources back
Nice.
to Earth.
That is pretty cool.
Pittsburgh startups, and space startups in particular, are not supposed to succeed. You're supposed to be in Florida, you're supposed to be in Houston, you're supposed to be in LA, but yet here we are in Pittsburgh with our very first spacecraft
Pittsburgh,
on
that
the launch
is-
pad, ready to go. We have more than a dozen instruments
I
flying on
wanna
our very
say
first mission
Alabama,
from all over the world.
but I'm probably
6
wrong.
new nations will touch the surface of the moon with just our first mission.
Where is
This
Pittsburgh?
mission was done on a relative shoestring budget. This is a much more affordable mission than has historically
Okay,
occurred.
you're gonna go really slow.
Regardless of challenges, we have to continue to strive toward that future of making space accessible to the world, and to see
Okay,
what's
why
possible
is-
when you come together to overcome the biggest challenge of all,
Pitts-
landing on the
Oh,
surface of the moon.
Pennsylvania. Okay, I should have thought about that.
Astrobotic is among a pool of vendors that can bid on contracts for future NASA deliveries. This model will hopefully mean frequent, rapid, and affordable access to the moon.
Nice.
Our moon. It seems so close in the night sky, but getting there is really hard. But what if there was a way to change that? Only a few nations have successfully landed on the moon. As NASA sends astronauts back to the lunar surface, this time to stay, we will need to send science and technology instruments ahead of time to lay the foundation for human exploration.
Yep.
To make this happen, NASA is helping establish a commercial lunar economy. For the first time ever, there will be commercial delivery services to the moon. We
How
are
mad
enabling
would that
American
be?
companies to send our payloads to the lunar surface for us. These delivery services will expand our capabilities for exploration, radically increasing the amount of science we can achieve. This high-risk, high-reward initiative will invest in and leverage the entrepreneurial spirit of American innovation to launch a commercial lunar marketplace, advancing technology and exploration for all of us. With this never-before-seen streamlined access to the moon, we will be able to make novel measurements and develop technologies that scientists have long wanted to do.
Oh,
on the
I
lunar
want to
surface.
see the footage of a rover
And
going
as
into
this new industry
a crater and
matures,
just
this commercial
falling
delivery
down.
service for NASA and other customers
would be
could
quite
expand
funny.
beyond the moon to other destinations in our solar system.
That's Mars.
And we can learn
That
to
was the
live
Perseverance
in another
rover.
world because we are explorers.
Flying on commercial missions will mean cost savings for NASA, as we've said, but this approach has risks. So to explain, I have Joel Kearns here. He's the Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration in NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Good morning, Joel.
Hi, good morning, Megan.
So talk to me about why we want commercial companies sending our science experiments. Why don't we send them ourselves?
Well, NASA is really good at sending robotic science probes throughout the solar system. But it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time. And for our big push to do science and technology on the moon as part of Artemis, we wanted to take a new approach. We wanted to tap into the new ideas, the entrepreneurial spirit, and all the engineering innovation that these small companies and startup companies bring to the United States. We think they can help make the overall moon effort much better.
But isn't it riskier for us to depend on others versus us doing it ourselves?
There is a different level of risk that we all had to understand and agree to when we started down this. Like I said, we understand how to do robotic science missions at NASA, but we do know that these companies have a lot of good, interesting ideas. By partnering with several different companies for different lunar landing missions, we get to see all their individual strengths, their different technical approaches, but at the same time, we don't get the level of information and we don't have the level of control or direction that we're used to having at NASA. But we think that trade is really worth it.
But why is it so important for us to send science before we send astronauts? We didn't do that before with the Apollo program.
Well, it's been
Well, no, because they weren't really doing a lot of science.
There were many unanswered scientific questions about the moon, not just about the moon itself, but how the moon is almost a time machine to look back to see what happened at Earth in the earliest stages of Earth. So, for example, we can do studies at the moon to try to determine when did all those last big meteor impacts take place? Because if we see them in the moon, they actually happened at the same time at Earth, maybe around the same time life was forming at Earth. You could also look at the moon, and we might be interested in using water ice that's at the south pole of the moon, we expect, for our astronauts in the future. But understanding how that ice got there, how that water got there in the first place, will help us understand how do we have water at Earth that we get to use today.
Real quick, is there anything in particular that you are most excited about discovering on the moon?
Oh, well, there's just
aliens.
So many things. There have been scientific questions for
Definitely
decades
aliens.
that people, scientists in the United States around the world have been dying to get back to the surface of the moon to do. We've sent many probes that orbit around the moon, like Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, but they look at it from afar. This is going to be our first chance to go back and really make those measurements that really touch the surface.
What's that movie, guys,
So
that
much. I know we have ambitious goals
is the
here at
Mickey
NASA.
take out of the
We'll
Apollo
see what we
missions
do.
where they land and it's like
Yes, thank you so much.
giant
All right,
spiders
so
or
let's head
something?
back over to ULA
I
San
can't quite
Antonio
remember
for
what it
another update
is.
on the Vulcan rocket.
Drop it in the chat if you know what that movie is. It's called Apollo something and a number.
Look forward to the
but I
launch
can't
of
remember.
ULA's first Vulcan rocket. We're still holding at T-minus 7 minutes as part of our planned 60-minute hold, and the team is not waiting.
Oh, my hair is going
The
everywhere.
booster is fueled to flight level with super chilled liquid oxygen and liquid methane. Soon, Centaur topping to flight levels will begin, and the ULA team is on track.
So
for
literally,
on-time liftoff
that is the
at
fairing right
18:38
there.
a.m. Eastern.
Just that big
We're
bit
about
there.
5 minutes away from Space Launch Delta 45's final weather briefing. At the moment, our weather continues to look good through the 45-minute launch window we have available this morning.
Now, guys, if you see this, do not worry. Nothing is wrong. That is exactly what they
All
want.
right, we're about 35 minutes away to the opening of today's launch window. Inside Vulcan's payload fairing is Astrobotic's Peregrine spacecraft. Astrobotic is based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where folks there
Pennsylvania.
are laser focused on Peregrine right now, right, Olivia?
Nice.
That is definitely right, Megan. I'm checking in on our Peregrine lunar lander with our mission control team right now. You can see them on screen. A reminder that our spacecraft is currently sitting in the top of ULA Vulcan's fairing. Our flight director is informing me that Peregrine is looking nominal with temperatures currently at an expected 70 degrees Fahrenheit. We also monitor the environmental pressure.
What's
from
that
our
in
spacecraft,
normal
and we're
units?
Sitting at a good 14.7 psi.
That's like
Things are looking good for launch. The spacecraft
23,
is currently powered off,
24?
but will automatically power on once it separates from Vulcan's payload.
What is 70 degrees
And here
Fahrenheit
you
in
can
Celsius?
just see the faces of some of the engineers who have worked many hours on
21.
to get it to the launch pad.
21 degrees. Nice.
Sitting in the middle left row is Flight Director Anders Solorzano. He is the acting flight director for this launch.
You can tell that
And
it's
nearby
early in the
is
morning
Alex Van
in the
Hoven.
UK.
He is currently
I can
providing
start to
an
hear all
update
the
on
aeroplanes coming
spacecraft
across the
status.
top of my place.
And Alex just informed me that the spacecraft is currently looking nominal. Temperatures and pressures are still as expected. As we continue to await launch, let's send it back to Megan at the host desk.
Thank you, Olivia. Again, Peregrine is flying with 20 payloads today. 5 of those are
20
NASA.
payloads, that's
Throughout the show,
mad.
We will tell you about each one, starting first with the Linear Energy Transfer Spectrometer, or LETS, from NASA's Johnson Space Center.
That's quite a lot of words for...
I'm Nick Stoffel. I'm a physicist and professional engineer, science and operations lead for the LETS payload. The Linear Energy Transfer Spectrometer is a small, low-power radiation detector based on Timepix technology developed at CERN. It's similar to devices that we've flown on ISS and Artemis. The science we're expecting to get from the LETS detector is take that information and translate it from deposited energy in silicon, which is what we measure with this detector,
Damn.
into a more biologically equivalent value that we can utilize for crew protection.
I just made one of these little moon bases, but on the Mars on KSP2.
From a radiation event, a solar storm on the moon, while crew are not there. That would be ideal from the standpoint of being able to get the data without putting crew at risk, and then utilizing that data to prepare for crew protection during the lunar operation.
Nice.
Now, NASA's Science Technology Mission Directorate had a hand in today's launch, so here with me now is Nikki Werkheiser, Director of Technology Maturation. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So tell me how STMD, that's the shortened version of the directorate there, tell me how it invests in small business like Astrobotics.
Of course. So the Space Technology Mission Directorate, our mantra is technology drives exploration. So if you're really going to create new disruptive technologies that change the world, you really have to work with a diverse group of individuals, and that means our small businesses, large businesses, international partners, other government agencies. Astrobotic is a shining example of that. STMD has been working with them for well over a decade. We've awarded over 40.
See, this rocket's got such a nice paint job, but once it's filled, you can't even see it. You can see like the little bit of the red.
We're partners, right? We're partners in this. We say at Artemis we're going together, and we mean it. We're invested hand in hand in this.
And how have those financial awards, how have those helped Astrobotic?
So, for example, not only do we have science and different payloads aboard the mission, but actually parts of the lander itself, like our navigation Doppler LiDAR that helps with the guidance, navigation, and control, terrain relative navigation that helps to make sure that they can land in safe spots. You know, the moon can be very treacherous. And also the axial thruster.
Anyone in KSP2 knows that.
Engines that have never been flown before that we're testing on the moon together.
How does it feel to see technologies that your directorate developed, you know, helping us get back to the moon?
There are not words. I really get goosebumps. And, you know, the funny thing is, if you had asked me as a child, of course, it's the amazing engineering and science feats that we see happening. But as a child that was raised in a family of a small business, doing this together with small businesses, this being our NASA and going together to the moon,
Our NASA,
is really just incredible.
Yeah, just what do you think about that? Again, that we're bringing in as many as we can with us back to
You know what I think? I think that means success. I think it's going to require all of us and our mutual strengths to make it happen.
Thank you, Nikki. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you see a beautiful launch today.
Me too. Let's go.
All right, we're just about under 31 minutes to the opening of
damn, 31 minutes.
After Peregrine 1 today, Astrobotic will deliver another payload for us, and that's our Viper rover.
Have I got any snacks? Guys, I've got no snacks for this. I've got no drinks, because I've drunk all mine.
NASA are busy working on Viper, another important lunar delivery.
I mean, I've got beer, but it's
polar exploration rover.
10 to 7 in the morning. I can't be drinking beer this early.
Volatiles are substances that easily evaporate. And one of the most important volatiles NASA is trying to map on the moon is
water.
Water is critical for deep space
How did I tell that?
Because you can drink it, but also turn it into oxygen for breathing and hydrogen for fuel. NASA has selected Astrobotic for Viper's lunar delivery under CLPS, or the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative. And when Viper gets to the moon, it will search for ice on and under the lunar surface near the moon's south pole. About the size of a small car, it has a drill and 3 science instruments.
A small car
Together,
is
they will
mad.
work to uncover how frozen water got on the moon in the first place and what has kept it preserved over billions of years. This mission will help NASA understand the environment where we plan to send astronauts as part of its Artemis program, which will establish a long-term presence on the moon and eventually Mars. That's your Artemis Moon Minute.
They're going to really push Artemis, they
Our
are.
next Artemis mission is Artemis 2, which will send 4 astronauts around the moon. And the work is already well
When's
underway
that-
on the
when's
Ride,
that set
NASA's
for?
Space Launch System rocket. Right now, teams here at Kennedy are processing segments of the 2 side boosters. Each booster will stand about 17 stories tall and burn approximately 6 tons of propellant every second, producing 3.6 million pounds of thrust. We continue to march towards today's 45-minute launch window that opens at 2:18 and 38 seconds Eastern Time. The ULA team remains in a planned hold and right now working no issues. As for the Peregrine spacecraft, let's get another check of it from Olivia with Astrobotic.
Thank you, Megan. As you may recall, we are currently only monitoring the spacecraft's temperature and pressure while it sits inside the Vulcan rocket's payload fairing. And we're checking in with my team members in Mission Control and Alex Van Hoven, one of our flight directors in the very back row. He is providing us updates directly.
Where is he?
Our mission team
It's
confirms the
usually
spacecraft's levels are nominal, and we
the guy
continue
sort of
to
in
be
the
ready for
middle.
launch. And I'd like to take this time to say a well-deserved shout out to the entire Astrobotic team in Pennsylvania, California, and even a few remote workers. I'm sure you're all watching right now, and we thank
Oh,
you for
wait,
your
it says
continued
DHL in the
commitment to this
background.
mission and to lunar exploration. We
What have
really,
Dickhead
really
Limited
couldn't
got
have
to
done
do
it
with
without you.
this?
Now, as we sit tight for launch, we'll continue to monitor Peregrine.
I didn't even
For now,
notice
back
that.
to
That's
Megan at the
crazy.
desk.
A few minutes ago, I told you about NASA's LETS payload flying on Peregrine today.
Let's.
Now we'll learn about NIRVIS, or the Near Infrared Volatile Spectrometer System from NASA's Ames Research Center.
Ooh, look
Hi,
at that.
My name's Tony Colpri. I'm the lead scientist for the Near
I
Infrared
thought it was going to
Volatile
do like,
Spectrometer
hi, my
System,
name's
or
whatever,
NIRVIS.
I'm the
The NIRVIS
satellite.
instrument combines 3 observations. It has a spectrometer that tells us about the composition of the lunar soil. It has a high-resolution camera that tells us about the fine-scale
Nice bit of
structures
glue
of
to
that
keep
soil.
it,
And
keep
has
the
a
lens
temperature
from
measurement
like
that tells us the temperature
unscrewing.
of the lunar regolith. NIRVIS combines
is pretty
all
good.
these 3 measurements to help us better understand the compounds that are on the surface of the moon. Particular compounds we're interested in are volatiles. A lunar volatile is a compound that is very sensitive to temperature. At low temperatures, it's solid. At high temperatures, it's a vapor. Water is a good example of a lunar volatile. We believe water is manufactured in sunlit regions of the moon, either through solar wind or through micrometeoroid impacts, and then migrates to the poles of the moon where it's captured into dark, permanently shadowed craters. If there is water at the
Hi
poles
there,
of the moon
Daily.
in substantial quantities,
Is that C? I can't even see, mate. I've got a big 27-inch monitor and I still can't see that.
Now we still have 3 more NASA payloads to tell you about.
CFC. It's safe to show.
Now we want to turn the broadcast over to ULA. Amanda Sterling
Is
will
it?
walk us
Yes,
through
it
the
is
West
safe.
and rocket
They
inaugural flight, launch, and ascent.
posted
And then
a
Olivia and I
thing
will
at the
be back
start
on
saying that any
after
media
liftoff to
can
continue
share
monitoring
this
Peregrine.
without
ULA will
any
just,
issues.
join us in just a
So yeah, it is safe to stream this. I wouldn't be doing it if otherwise, because I've already got 1 copyright strike. So yeah, it is all safe to use. Awesome. It's going to be a really cool launch, so it's definitely worth watching. Oh, the chat's actually
Good
starting to
morning.
work now.
I'm Amanda Sterling, a program management leader and your
I
host
might make
for
that a bit
ULA's
bigger,
live
actually.
coverage of the inaugural Vulcan launch. I'm joining you from ULA's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida.
How
Thanks
do I
for
check
staying
my
up late
copyright
or
strikes?
voting up early with us for
So
today's
if you
exciting
go
first
into
launch, Vulcan's
your
Certification
YouTube
Flight 1,
studio,
or Cert 1. This is the first of 2 planned test flights to support
let me
full
just make sure I
certification
get
of the
this
Vulcan rocket
right.
for U.S. government missions.
So you go
On
into
board the Vulcan rocket today is
YouTube
Astrobotic's
Studio,
commercial lunar lander, on a
and
mission
then
to intercept the
you
moon.
go to. It
And
should
the
literally.
Celestis
I'll show you
Memorial
quickly.
Spaceflight payload Enterprise,
So you just go
flying into
here,
space with the
and it
Centaur
should
upper
show you
upper
there.
stage.
If not, it'll be in the
Liftoff
copyright
is scheduled
tag
for 2:18:38
just there on the side.
a.m. Eastern, and we have a 45-minute launch window this
Are
morning.
you gonna? Oh,
In addition to watching
now
our
broken it.
webcast, you can also follow the live mission progress at ulalaunch.com.
did it? There we go. Cool.
About 30 minutes
So yeah,
ago,
that is
the
how you
count
check
entered
your
a
copyright
60-minute
strikes.
planned hold. We have 2 planned
What will
holds in our
usually
launch,
happen
which give our team
is,
additional time
if
to
it was
resolve
going to
issues
copyright
prior to
strike you,
entering the
you would
terminal.
literally, as you're streaming, it
At this
will
time, the team is not
scream
reporting
at you
issues, and we're
saying,
proceeding towards an on-time liftoff.
and it will
We're
notify you
excited
straight
to
away
partner
as soon
with
as you
NASA
start
on today's
streaming.
live broadcast. Together, we'll be continuing our coverage through end of mission.
Right, here we go.
Building on more than 120 years of combined Atlas and Delta launch experience, ULA's
I've
Vulcan
seen a
rocket
Delta.
introduces
what
a
is it?
balance
A Delta
of new
4.
technologies and
I think I
innovative
saw a
features
Delta
to
4.
ensure
Was like
a
my first
reliable
rocket
and
launch I ever
accessible
saw.
space launch service. Let's hear more about this incredible launch vehicle from ULA Business Development Director Tom Burkholder and
Nice.
Vulcan Chief Engineer RJ Sansom.
Oh, I think my heat is actually starting to get a bit warm now. I might have to turn this down a bit.
Began the design of Vulcan, what that meant.
Yeah, when we started the design of Vulcan, we were looking at our national security space customer and designing a launch system that would meet their needs. And we focused on being able to provide lift for the most difficult, stressing mission, which is a high energy mission. We designed a launch system that's flexible. We have the ability to add solid
I think
rocket
that's.
boosters.
Was that the
take
one
them
I've
off,
seen? I can't. I don't even
tailor the
know how
performance
many.
that we need for
What
that
ones I've
particular
seen now.
mission. We have
I've
a
seen lots of Falcon
extremely
9
capable
launches.
upper
That's all I
stage
can
in the
say.
Centaur 5 that provides performance that exceeds all the capabilities that our customers
Look at that.
In the end, we've got a launch system that exceeds all of our national security customers' requirements and enables us to provide performance for commercial customers or other customers that will meet their needs now and into the future.
Oh, that's great. And as we look at how the customer received that vision, we definitely saw that.
Why does he look like an old Voldemort?
Contributed to the development.
Anyone see that, or am I just? I have just finished watching Harry Potter, so I might be a bit
from the beginning,
lenient on it.
With industry partners who have expertise and capabilities to help us bring new innovative
I've got to turn this heater off, guys.
as well as to
Me,
leverage
2
existing
seconds.
technologies. So we brought a very capable,
It is
yet new design
freezing cold
forward
here in the
with a
UK.
low-risk option.
It is.
We partnered with Northrop Grumman on development of new solid rocket boosters. The first
So
variant of
it
that
is
being
currently
Atlas
in
with
here
a tailored
15
version
degrees
that
Celsius,
tailored
which
provides
is
specific performance for Vulcan.
60
We
degrees
partnered with
Fahrenheit.
Rocketdyne on development
Outside
of
it
RL10
is
and implementation on that
1
system
degree
for flight on
Celsius,
Atlas, and then flying
which
again on
that
Vulcan.
won't show me
Partnered
what
with
1
Beyond
degree
Gravity
is.
on composite structures. And then we partnered with
32, I
Blue
think it
Origin
is.
to develop a new main station
Oh no,
propulsion
32
system
is
to be
0.
the first
So
oxygen
like
station
32 and a
combustion
half,
engine
whatever.
developed domestically. So industry partners brought a lot to
Right.
the table for us.
That's great.
Oh,
And
now
then
my
as
chair's
we
gone
look at
funny.
What this has meant to the market, it's been fantastic. And I was wondering if you could share with me how the Vulcan design has evolved as we've started to look at the commercial market. With
Vulcan looks really
We
cool.
had a really capable launch system to start with, and as we looked at the commercial market and the focus on LEO, we decided that a small change to our design, a small change to the upper stage, would give us increased performance and ability to lift more spacecraft to the low Earth orbit, and really position us well for
That's gonna be
supporting the
Kuiper.
Kuiper contract and our Kuiper customer.
Yeah. And the
Which
result of that
Kuiper
was
has
the
now
largest launch
been
contract ever.
moved
So
to some
with that,
Falcon
Vulcan
9s, which
positions
is quite cool.
to help support national security, NASA, and our commercial market. So we're very excited about the future. Go Vulcan, go Centaur, go Cert-1.
Nice.
I'm now joined by ULA President and CEO Tori Bruno. Tori,
Yay.
thank you so much for joining us on this monument.
I think this is the first time I've actually seen a
I've been part of the
photo,
Vulcan team for
or
a number
you know,
of years,
seen him.
So I know how focused the whole ULA team has been. Can you talk a little bit about the teams that came together to
This guy's
design,
been
build,
brilliant
and
for
now
their
launch
social
this
media.
rocket?
absolutely
I am so proud of our
brilliant.
people, and I think we had exactly the best possible team. We've got folks that designed rockets before, like Atlas and Delta, but we also have the majority of our team, people like yourself, that are earlier in their career, know the new tools, aren't sort of handcuffed by some of the conventions that we used before, and can do really creative and innovative work. While
A little
also
bit of
not
a
making
dig at the
mistakes.
old guys there.
Absolutely, and you know, Vulcan is such a unique rocket. What are you most proud of about this vehicle?
I'm really proud of the fact that we still service the high energy marketplace.
We are
a unique
T-minus
thing that is
18
really important
minutes.
to our nation's security, that no one else has an architecture that will do that, while at the same time breaking all the rules and having the dial-a-rocket architecture that gives it the flexibility to reach down into that LEO marketplace and be very competitive there as well.
Absolutely. So we're getting pretty close to liftoff now. How do you expect to feel watching the Vulcan rocket lift off for the first time?
Tremendous excitement and anticipation. I got to tell you, I've done over 400 launches. They're all the same. I always get butterflies. This one's really special because of what it means to our country, to our customers, and to the team that has worked so hard, including you, Agent Sterling.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to it so you can make sure you watch liftoff, and let's go.
Go Vulcan. Thank you.
That was, I wanted to say at first it was a bit cringy, but actually that was really good. I kind of like that. He has been an absolute trooper for ULA, and for even the social media that he's done. You know, people asking of like when the
on board the Vulcan rocket today,
explosion
is
happened in
Peregrine
testing,
commercial lunar lander.
you know, very
Peregrine
transparent
is the first
about it.
spacecraft in NASA's new CLIPS initiative to have American companies send its science experiments to the moon.
Nice.
Astrobotic is a full-service lunar company. It starts with our terrestrial testing and development services that can build and test propulsion systems on Earth, to the sensors that make precision landing possible, to our rovers that will deploy down on the surface of the moon.
Look at that, that's
The thing
mad.
that we're known for is our 2 lunar missions to go to the surface of the moon. Our first one is about to launch, and our second one flies in 2024.
Yeah, it says DHL on it.
Peregrine mission
I
is
don't
important
understand if they
because it's one of
started
the
doing
first
like
commercial missions to return to the
sponsored
surface of the moon. This is the
advertising.
dawn of a new era of affordable, routine, regular access to the surface.
Did like
Peregrine's
DHL
development was a
send loads of
years-long
parts
process that
to
included many people,
the Cape?
like engineers, welders, and technicians who designed and built the spacecraft. To be on the pad today with our spacecraft strapped to a giant 200-foot tall launch vehicle, it's a little surreal. It's a moment I've been dreaming about, and this first mission is just our first step to make space accessible to the world, and it certainly will not be our last.
Nice. It does look like a really cool. I can't see any strikes, but they do come off
Also
after a
riding atop
while.
today's Vulcan
They,
rocket is the Celestis Memorial Space
I
Flight
think it's like
Let's
6
learn
months
more
or
about
so,
this
and then they sort of disappear. If it's just a copyright notice, if it's a strike, then usually you get free, and then that's it. You're out. So if it's just you've streamed something or you've done something, uploaded a video with it, then for uploading video, yeah. So if you've uploaded it for videos, usually it just gives you a copyright notice. You normally don't get struck, but they do come off. I may have to. And yeah, I lost a couple of YouTube channels years and years ago because of copyright strikes and that. There was. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, Artemis. They did some. Yeah, there was. What was it? There was. Is it copyrighted music or it was something like that? But yeah, there was.
Vulcan and Astrobotic.
I remember seeing who was it.
Of the Vulcan rocket,
was it Everyday Astronaut? I think it was Everyday Astronaut got Oh,
Let's
when
learn
it got,
more about this
when it
innovative
launched.
new rocket.
Ooh, I streamed the launch of that one, so I didn't get anything from it.
The Vulcan rocket, once fully stacked,
Okay, that's weird. I'm gonna have to go back on that video now to check, make sure I didn't get a copyright strike.
Vulcan's first stage is built using lightweight,
Because my one
machined,
says
bump-pressed
that it's fine.
aluminum panels to form the liquid
Let's have a
propellant
look.
base. Once formed,
It wasn't a, oh, it wasn't a stream. Okay, yeah, so they probably
before heading to the paint booth.
put the copyright after, maybe. I don't know. YouTube's still confusing. Literally, 1 minute it's fine, 1 minute it's not. You sort of go with the flow now.
Powered by twin BE4 engines.
So my last copyright strike was the Apple event last year.
Atop the booster is
Uploaded the
ULA's
trailer.
ultra-thin stainless steel Centaur upper stage. Powered
Okay,
by
so
RL
the
10
trailer probably
Spacecraft are
got done.
encapsulated inside a protected
Did you like
5.4
edit
meter
it or anything like that, or like change it slightly?
The rocket travels from the
Because
ULA
they'll probably
factory
get
in
you
Alabama
done
to the
for
launch site in Cape
not
Canaveral
using it
by
in
ULA's
fair
rocket
use.
Once
So like if there's a reaction, you'd be fine. Yeah, no. So that's probably why, because you've not changed something slightly or added more content to it. Usually YouTube will just straight away copyright strike it. Where am I going? I just tried to go back to the live stream to see what's going on. There we go. There we go. I'm back.
Lastly, the encapsulated payload
If I get banned.
banned.
You probably won't get banned. I would have already got a copyright notice straight away from this. Because you're streaming, and it did say, yeah, you can get another channel, you just can't access the channel you've got now. But I can show you that literally at the start of it, here we go. So literally, you can't even see this because I'm blocking the way. But it says United Launch Alliance hereby grants news agents permission to use the following content. So this is literally the part that says you can use it. So, and that'll be for anyone to use, not just news agents. They just do that as a, because YouTubers are technically classed as news agents now. Oh, is there a... Oh, here we go, guys. I want to bump this volume up.
Terminal count briefing. If a condition exceeds a launch constraint, anytime after the terminal count status check, the observer shall announce hold on channel 1, identify their station, and briefly state the reason for the hold.
It's literally in about...
RLM, verify redline monitor, and event table.
9-10 minutes, something like that. It's 18 minutes past the hour is the launch.
As we approach the terminal count pole, let's check in on today's weather.
So they are going to resume. You guys can't actually see it, but behind me there is a T-minus 7 minute.
Probability of violating launch
you can actually see it here. So they're in a hold, and then when they get to T-minus 7, they'll actually start the clock again.
Fahrenheit. The primary concern for launch is the thick cloud layers rule.
Minus 11 minutes.
What do you say, Bumba? Just their volume, because their volume was quite low. But it might be fine for you guys, but I can't hear it very well. Okay, they're doing their polls now.
We remain in the planned 60-minute hold as we continue towards liftoff. In a few moments, launch conductor Dylan Rice will poll the launch team for the final go to pick up the count.
Come on, please go today,
29
because
engineers and managers are polled for system status and readiness to proceed. This is the final status check for all Vulcan vehicle systems, ground systems, spacecraft, and the U.S. Space Force Eastern Range.
Yeah, you should be fine streaming
poll
this. This should be
electrical
absolutely
system,
fine.
Hydraulics,
I mean,
pneumatics,
I would have got
propulsion
a
systems, flight
strike
control,
already
and
by now.
propellants.
But
Let's
I've
listen
had
in as Dylan
no...
Rice performs the final polling.
Normally it says... Oh, here we go.
Minus 10 minutes. Status check to proceed with terminal count, Vulcan Systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LNG.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur Systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
HASGAS.
Go.
Electrical Systems. Airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight Control.
Go.
GC Cubed.
Go.
Operations Support.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline Monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op Safety Manager.
Go.
ULA Safety Officer.
Go.
Vehicle System Engineer.
Go.
Anomaly Chief.
Go.
Range Coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Launch Director.
Yes.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count.
There we go, guys. We are
Set for 07 18 38 Zulu.
Verified.
sweet. So they're going to
Polling is
resume the
complete,
count
and the team
in a
is
minute.
Go for launch. From T-minus 7 minutes until liftoff, you'll hear Dylan Rice and the team performing the final steps in the countdown procedure. Several critical activities occur in the final minutes before launch, including verifying fuel tank
Nice.
levels and pressures in the booster and Centaur, and arming the flight termination system. At T-minus 1 minute, the Range Operations Commander confirms the range is in a green condition for launch. At
Very,
T-minus
very
25
nice.
seconds, you'll hear Go Vulcan, Go Centaur, Go Peregrine. This is the final status check of rocket and payload readiness. At T-minus 7
man.
seconds, Rofi sparklers will ignite, followed a second later by initiation of the launch pad water deluge system. At T-minus 3 seconds, the main engines ignite. Then, after seeing Vulcan's first ever liftoff from Slick 41, you'll begin hearing
So this
flight
is Slick
commentator
41,
Rob
so
Gann
literally
providing launch
across
vehicle
the pad,
ascent data.
a Slick 40, literally 5-6 hours ago, a Falcon 9 took off. It's mental. And then I think the next launch from the Cape is like tomorrow, I think it is. Tomorrow being the 9th of
This is Vulcan
January.
Mission Control at T-minus 7 minutes and holding. We anticipate releasing the hold in just a few moments.
Nice, we're gonna get going. Now you guys can't see it.
Minus 7 minutes and counting.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1, mark.
So that's the guy there that is talking. He is the launch director.
Ground pyros enabled.
The countdown clock has resumed, and we are go for
Nice.
launch at 2:18:38 a.m. Eastern.
Nice.
After liftoff, ULA's Vulcan rocket will head east from Space Launch Complex 41. Here's a look at today's ascent.
Oh, come on, please be coming over the UK. Oh, they literally done
Following
like...
final confirmation of rocket and
God, that's
payload
loud.
readiness, 2 GEM 63XL solid rocket boosters and twin BE-4 engines produce more than 1.7 million pounds of
Yeah, so the
thrust
first
and lift
stage
ULA
is the
Vulcan rocket away from Cape Canaveral Space
3,
Launch Complex
4,
41.
whatever engines.
Shortly after liftoff, the rocket begins a pitch over to attain the proper flight path while minimizing the dynamic pressure it experiences during flight. Vulcan then reaches Mach 1 at the speed of sound. With the ability
Nice.
to add 2, 4,
Or
6
6.
solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, Vulcan can be precisely configured to take any mission to space, from low Earth orbit to Pluto and beyond.
Oh wow, it
These
can go to
boosters augment
Pluto.
the rocket's total thrust at liftoff, adding approximately 460,000 pounds of thrust per SRB.
Wow.
With their propellant expired approximately 90 seconds into ascent, the SRBs burn out, followed by jettison. Jettison time is variable, occurring between 100 and 150 seconds after liftoff, depending on mission requirements.
That is pretty mad.
Vulcan's guidance system then activates to steer towards the precise target in space. First stage flight continues as the rocket crosses the Kármán line, entering space. With the majority of propellant expended as Vulcan fights against the force of gravity, the BE-4 engines shut down.
Bico.
Booster stage separates. With the rocket now weighing less than 10% of what it did at liftoff, dual RL-10C engines on ULA's
Oh wow,
Centaur
there's actually
upper stage
2 engines on the upper stage.
spacecraft are encapsulated inside a 5.4-meter diameter payload fairing, which provides
It's a
protective
really
environment
long
for
payload
Centaur.
fairing.
Following Centaur engine ignition, the payload fairing is jettisoned. With the first burn complete, the Centaur engine shuts down for a coast phase. Centaur flies a short, medium, or long coast, which is determined by launch day. Further into flight,
Nice.
Centaur ignites for a second burn, powering the vehicle into a translunar injection orbit. Following the second main engine cutoff, ULA Centaur places Astrobotic's Peregrine lunar lander into a highly elliptical orbit, more than 220,000 miles above Earth, where it will intercept the Moon. Following delivery of the Peregrine spacecraft, Centaur comes alive for a third and final burn to reach a heliocentric orbit around the Sun. Centaur completes the Cirque-1 mission by carrying Celestis' Memorial Space
Oh,
Flight
so that's
payload
how they're
into deep
doing the
space.
other.
Known as the Enterprise flight, this mission includes 234 flight capsules containing cremated remains, DNA samples, and messages of greetings from clients worldwide on an endless journey in interplanetary
Mate, that's
space
awesome.
beyond the Earth-Moon system to orbit the Sun forever.
That's pretty cool, actually. Like, if you think, you know, people get buried in the ground, but you can also get shot into space. So you can say to, like, your kids, you know, Dad's always up there, just look up. And you're not actually lying. Oh, that's... I might have to put that in my will. I doubt that we'll ever be able to afford that, but, you know, it's worth putting it in there. So we are T-minus 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And why
FTS internal.
why is my stream
238.
why is this saying
230.
CLO2 PLP started.
why is my stream studio saying no data, but OBS is absolutely fine? The preview, I can see the preview, guys. I have no idea what's going on. The studio is saying that there's no data, but it's clear as day that it is, because I can see the preview. I can see myself waving.
159.
Okay.
T-minus
Oh, there you go. It's just refreshed the page on its own.
payload, ground systems,
Here
and
we
PC
go.
training
T-minus
go for launch.
1 minute 50
For
seconds.
those of you just joining, I'm Amanda Sterling, and I'm your host for today's live coverage of the inaugural Vulcan rocket launch. The team is not working any issues, and we're on track for an on-time liftoff at 2:18:38 a.m. Eastern Time.
FTS arm.
Right, guys, get your votes in. The poll will be closing at T-minus 1 at 0. T-minus 0. And while we're here, guys, if I can find the thing, don't forget to... Okay, it's not... Oh, I pressed the wrong button.
T-minus 1 minute.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We are almost up to 1,000 subs. We are so close to it. And we are almost to the launch of this rocket, guys. This is going to be mental. This is going to be its first launch. So yeah, get ready. I am getting ready to end the poll. And yeah, we're going to have a super awesome flight of this brand new rocket.
Go.
Here we go, guys. 20 seconds.
Go Vulcan. Go Centaur.
Go Peregrine.
That's what we wanted to hear. Here we go.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Oh, look at
5,
that.
4, 3. We have ignition. And liftoff of the first United Launch Alliance Vulcan
Jeez,
rocket,
look at it,
launching a
guys.
new era in spaceflight to the moon and beyond.
And it's going. It is going.
Two good SRBs, hitting peak pressure on the SRBs. Everything looking good.
See, I love nighttime launches because they look really cool, but also you don't really see much of the rocket.
We've got pitching out programs in, coming into normal rates for that event. We have good hydraulic pressure on both engines.
Nice.
Good chamber pressure on both engines. Everything looking good.
That is looking very, very
Coming up on
nice.
60 seconds into the flight. Everything looking good. Two good engines.
That is a
good
good
SRBs.
shot. Tracking brilliant on that.
Body rates look good, nice and smooth. And we've hit our first throttle point on the BE4s. Everything looking good. And we passed through Mach 1. We are now supersonic, coming up on max speed.
Nice. Here we go. So this
At
is
max dynamic
the
pressure.
big
Everything's
test.
looking good. We're rolling off on the SRBs. And we have cutoff on the SRBs, coming up on jettison in approximately 30 seconds.
Nice. There you go. So that is now the solid rocket boosters have been used up. Oh, look at that. We got onboard footage. Nice.
Seeing expected PU activity on the booster mains.
Nice. There we go.
And
So
we
there
have
goes the
Separation
solid rocket
of
boosters.
Both SRBs, everything looking good. BE4s continue to operate normally.
Nice.
On 2 minutes into the mission, we are now 17 miles in altitude.
We just heard confirmation of solid rocket booster jettison. We have about 3 minutes until we reach our next mission event, booster engine cutoff.
I love the color.
And we see booster PU correcting towards a nominal MR. Everything looking good. Both engines continue to burn normally.
Yeah, I'm loving the color of this exhaust. Very, very cool.
And we now weigh approximately half of our liftoff weight. Everything looking good.
Nice. So half the liftoff weight.
And we fired the power valve, activating the reaction control system. On the upper stage, pressures are rising. As expected, BE4 continues to operate normally.
Here we go. Okay, that's a bit of a weird plume. Why is it going off to the side? Is that like gimbaling, maybe?
Continuing to fly down the center of the range track. Everything looking good. 33 miles in altitude, 52 miles downrange, traveling at 4,000 miles per hour.
Nice. They need some like speed things like
And we see
SpaceX
excellent
do.
Performance out of the BE4s. Chamber pressure nice and smooth.
Right, you can see how far out now the exhaust plume is going as it gets to
Vehicle's
the
accelerating, a little over 2 Gs at this time.
thinner
Body
parts of the atmosphere.
Nice and smooth operation of the booster. 47 miles in altitude, 95 miles downrange at 5,500 miles per hour.
I have to say they've got a super solid
Engines continue to burn normally. Everything
signal from the rocket. That's pretty damn good. God, look how far out the plume is now. That's mad. If this was in the daytime, this would look
vehicle
beautiful.
now weighs 1/4 of this liftoff weight as we pass through the Kármán line.
There we go. So now it's officially
What we're looking for is boost space tilde
in space.
Our main engines.
Oh, it's past the boundary of space now.
Booster mains continue to operate normally.
Alright, so in about 30 seconds, we're going to come up
And
to
we've begun boost space chill.
booster
Hydrogen
engine
dropping
cut
as
off.
expected.
Come on, are we going to see some like
The end of boost phase.
SpaceX kind of separation?
Throttle down in preparation for BECO. We've completed boost phase chill down.
Ah, we're going to get an
Yep, cut off.
animation now.
Coming up on Vulcan Centaur separation.
Oh, look at that.
Vulcan Centaur separation.
Oh, nice.
Coming up on the Centaur phase.
Come on. Come on. Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, look at that.
There's a bit of data loss here. We've recovered the data. It's like Centaur engines are up and running normally, good steady state pressure, and we've just jettisoned the payload fairing. 2 good brake wires.
It's such a massive fairload paying. A fairload. I can't speak. It's too early, guys.
Good steady state operating levels on the Centaur mains.
The fairing,
Good engines
payload
on the
fairing.
Control on Centaur PU.
If it's such a
This is Vulcan
small
Mission Control
little
at T plus
payload.
5 minutes 57 seconds. We just heard flight commentator Rob Gannon confirm the successful completion of the early phase of today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. Our next event, main engine
Nice.
cutoff, will occur in about 10 minutes. While we wait, I'm joined by Amanda Bicchetti, ULA Director of Vehicle Upgrades. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us, and I know it's still early, but congratulations.
Thank you. You as well. This is amazing.
How did it feel to watch the Vulcan rocket lift off for the first time?
Oh, just absolutely amazing. I didn't expect it to be the way it was. It just, my heart is still pounding. It was excellent, and just I'm so proud of all the work that the team did.
It's a pretty cool launch.
Absolutely, and
would have been so
developing
much
a new
better
rocket is an
a daytime
enormous
launch
endeavor,
though.
of which you were a huge part. Again, we're still early, but how do you imagine the whole Vulcan team is feeling right now?
I feel like they have to be the same way, you know, smile ear to ear. I know the team is at all our sites, friends and family. They've been supporting us for many years to get to where we are, so I'm sure they are jumping up and down just like me. It's been amazing.
How is the Vulcan rocket going to change the industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Vulcan is very much based on our heritage rockets, the Delta IV and Atlas V vehicles. But we've brought in a lot of new innovation and capabilities that are going to allow us to even better support our warfighters, exploration, as well as connecting the world. And the great thing about Vulcan is it's highly versatile, meaning we can use that vehicle to do anything we want, allows for affordability for anybody who needs access to space.
If I win the lottery, guys,
Absolutely,
I'm going to
and
build
so
a
this
little
is the
satellite
first
and
certification
send it to
flight.
Pluto.
What are the next steps for Vulcan after this?
Yeah, so with the first flight, we are well under the way from a certification perspective. We do have a second flight that we'll need to do here later this year. Once that completed, we'll have about 2 months or so of post-flight data testing, and then at that point
Nice.
we will be certified by the U.S. Space Force, and we will be ready to fly all of their important payloads for them.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you
Very
so much
cool.
for joining us, and we'll let you get back and watch the next mission
Excellent.
events.
Congratulations again.
Thanks, you too.
Oh, it's a shame we ain't going to see like any views from the second stage.
Coming up on 500 seconds into the mission. Everything's looking good.
Okay.
Continuing to burn Centaur.
You know what? I can just hear now. It's going to be the flat earthers
Steady
going,
acceleration
oh,
under half a G.
this rocket, look at it. It looks so fake. It's like,
235 miles
'cause
in
it is.
altitude, 836 miles downrange, traveling at 11,150 miles per hour.
dang. Yeah, flat earthers will love this. They'll eat this up. They'll go, oh look, it's so fake. Why can't you see it?
Performance from Centaur.
It's literally an animation, or technically it's a simulation. Is it a real-time animation? Yeah, real-time animation, because it's based off real data coming in, including like the pitch, the yaw, the how much is coming out of the engines.
Yeah, approaching the halfway point of this first burn of Centaur. Everything looks good.
Nice. And wait, did he just say halfway? I think if this is coming over the UK, I think I could see this.
Downrange, traveling at 11,500 miles per hour.
So he said it was going east. I'm trying to think which way it has to go to come over the UK. See, I know the Falcon 9, it takes, was it 16 minutes to get over to the UK? I might pop my head
This is
out.
Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 10 minutes 7 seconds. Our next event, main engine cutoff, will occur in about 5 minutes. While we wait, I'm joined by Eric Monda, part of ULA's mission design team. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we're still pretty early in this flight today, but can you tell us how the data's looking so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to say that it was so exciting. I ran outside so I could watch this thing lift off, and that was so cool after so many years of development to watch this thing fly. That was fantastic.
Absolutely, I bet.
Yeah.
So what is the data showing us so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had a very quick look. Obviously, we're very early in the flight still, but I've taken a look at the SRB performance as well as the booster performance so far, and everything looks just spot on, just perfect. Fortunately, we've had a lot of these systems on Atlas and Delta for a long time, and so we've had a lot of flight data to anchor our models, and everything is lining up just like we would expect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So a lot of the audience has seen us switch from this live view of the launch from our rocket cam to this animated representation of the vehicle in space. Can you talk a little bit about why we make that switch and how this visual is populated?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first lift off, we have a feed directly from the cameras that are on the rocket back to the launch site here. And so with that, we can get the video feed that we need in order to provide those images. As we get further downrange and we go over the horizon, we no longer have that direct link, and so we rely on NASA's teeter system to send telemetry from the vehicle back down to us.
Here.
In that telemetry data, we get information like position and attitude and velocity, and so we use that to drive the animations you see here.
Okay, so we're looking at real data, what's happening, it's just a graphic of it.
Right, I'm just going to stick my head out the door. I'm going to see
today we have,
if I can see anything.
The first of 3 Centaur burns.
I very much doubt it,
a little bit
but
about why we need 3 burns and how we use those 3 burns to complete our mission today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first burn performs our injection into low Earth orbit. Unfortunately, if we just continue that burn from that point in time, we wouldn't necessarily be aligned with where we need to be in order to get to the moon. So what we do after we get to low Earth orbit is we shut those engines down, we coast around until we get to the right spot to do that, and then we light those engines up again. When we do that and complete that burn, that will allow us to send the Astrobotic Peregrine lander onto the moon. So we shut those down, engines down
nothing
again,
yet.
Or ready to do that.
We'll go outside in about.
One more time in order to do
It's getting light outside, so I think I'll still be able to see it as long as the engines are going.
Where these things happen. We're going to go ahead and shut down the main engines on the Centaur.
It would be so cool if I could see this.
Ocean, and then we're going to coast the rest of the way across the Atlantic Ocean, across Africa, and go ahead and start the engines.
Okay, it's going across Africa. We ain't seeing it.
Burn, and then we coast again. And
it's going straight across.
About to Papua New Guinea, and when we get about to over Papua New Guinea, that's where we'll go ahead and do that third and final burn.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple of these key milestones that are ahead of us. What can everyone expect to see as far as the timeline of these mission events as they continue watching today?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the clock right now, looks like we've got about 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes left here in the first burn of the upper stage. We're going to coast for about 30 minutes after that as we do that coast across the Atlantic Ocean and across Africa. The second burn will be about 4 minutes long, and then we'll have another coast for 30 minutes before we have a pretty short, like 20-second burn for the final burn. Once we've done that, some engineering demos we're going to do before we finally safe the stage and shut everything off, and then about 4 days later is when the Centaur will leave the Earth-Moon system and be off on its way to deep space.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thanks for joining us today, and we'll let you get back to watching those next events.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thanks.
Nice. So, once they shut down this
PU system is steadily making the correction down to a nominal MR.
Trying to think. It is now, what? 7:30 in the morning. Oh wow, there is actually like clouds and stuff like that. Is it clouds? I can't see it because the reflection off my
1 minute,
lights.
D'Amico. Both engines firing normally.
It looks like clouds, but then it actually looks like the bottom of the ocean. Weird. I have to say, this is the sort of boring parts
This is
of
Vulcan
a rocket
mission
launch.
control at T plus 15 minutes 30 seconds. We are approaching the first main engine cutoff. Let's listen in.
Here we go.
On MECO 1.
This is where it doesn't turn off.
On to open loop control on MECO, we have cutoff. Both engines
Oh.
show normal shutdown signatures. We
Okay.
have settling established, 85% duty cycle. We are now in a 27-minute, 51-second coast duration to second burn of Centaur.
Nice.
This is Vulcan mission control at T plus 16 minutes 20 seconds. We just heard flight commentator Rob Gannon confirm successful cutoff of the first main engine, and all systems continue to operate nominally. Our next event, Main Engine Start 2, will occur in about 27 minutes. At this time, we'll pass the broadcast back to the NASA team to continue with mission coverage through the coast phase. We'll join you back in as we approach the separation of the Peregrine spacecraft. Over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Amanda. Congratulations to you and the ULA team
Nice.
so far. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Space Coast of Florida, where we just witnessed the first launch of NASA's CLIPS initiative. It was a magnificent sight.
Right, guys,
Apparently.
I am going to quickly pop out. I will be back in about 5 minutes. Just going to go wake my child up, ready for nursery, and wake the wife up. Make sure everyone's up for nursery. So I shall be back in a minute. I'm going to chuck that on the screen. See you guys in a minute.
First mission for its Peregrine spacecraft. Today was also the first launch of ULA's new Vulcan rocket. Again, congrats. It lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's Launch Pad 41. Our broadcast here on NASA TV will continue through Peregrine acquisition of signal, which is expected to happen at the earliest around 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. With me now is Sandra Connolly. She's the Deputy Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Good morning, and thanks for being here, Sandra.
Good morning. It's a thrill to be here.
Yeah, what did you think of the launch?
It was amazing. Yet another beautiful ULA launch. Totally spectacular, and it's super exciting to know that now our Peregrine 1 lander is on its way to the moon, and in about 2.5 weeks it's going to go into orbit. And a few weeks later from that, in mid to late February, we're going to actually see it land. And that will be the first, well, actually it'll be one of the early landings on the moon since Apollo, over 50 years, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. U.S. landings on the moon.
Yeah, it is. And the CLIPS is new as well. So talk to us a little bit about this program. We're using commercial companies to send science instruments to the moon for us. Why is that?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this program. It is a game-changing program for us. It really is leveraging industry in new ways. As you've probably seen, I mean, the whole aerospace industry has evolved over this last decade in amazing ways, and I think this is just yet one more step in doing so. So our commercial partners are actually delivering a service. They're delivering our payloads and other organizational payloads, whether it's other companies, whether it's international partners. Basically, anybody who wants to procure the service can deliver a payload to the moon using the CLIPS program.
And so there are 20 payloads flying on the Peregrine spacecraft right now. 5 of those are NASA's. Can you tell me a little bit about what they'll be studying once they get to the moon?
Yeah, so again, amazing service. So our payloads are going to be studying things, including understanding, studying water, studying the volatiles or the resources on the moon, studying the atmosphere, and also the radiation environment to help inform us for the future when we have humans back on the moon.
Sandra, thank you so much. I'm excited to see what we do with this initiative and this launch here today.
Thank you so much, and let me just say, go Vulcan and go Peregrine 1.
Yes, you can totally say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so when Peregrine lands on the near side of the moon on February 23rd, it will be one of the first lunar landings for the U.S. since the final Apollo mission over 50 years ago. Let's head back over to Astrobotics, Olivia Chapla.
Thanks, Megan, and what a great day so far. So for those of you just tuning in, I wanted to reintroduce myself. I'm Olivia Chapla, Director of Marketing and Communications for Astrobotic. Astrobotic is a space company with our primary headquarters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we've just watched our Peregrine lunar lander rocket into space aboard a United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket. This Peregrine spacecraft's mission is to carry 20 payloads or cargo to the lunar surface from 7 different countries. 6 of those nations have never reached the moon before. Our aim is to autonomously land on the lunar surface a few weeks from now. We're taking the long way around, and we expect Peregrine to land on February 23rd, 2024. We've got all eyes on the Peregrine lander as it waits to separate from the Vulcan rocket in about 30 minutes. At that point, we will seek to establish communications with the lander. And now we'll take a more in-depth look at Peregrine's full journey to the moon with an animation. Once ULA's Vulcan rocket launches, we will then know the exact day the Peregrine spacecraft will attempt a soft landing on the moon. The first landing attempt could be anywhere from 10 to 60 days from launch. Because this is Peregrine's first ever trip to the moon, our team is not taking a direct path. Peregrine will first complete one Earth orbit so the team can get critical data on the spacecraft and test maneuvers before executing a very critical milestone, entering lunar orbit. Peregrine will orbit the moon at 3 altitudes. The first orbit will last about 33 hours. Peregrine's second orbit can be up to 35 days. The spacecraft's third and final orbit around the moon will last 48 hours. Next up, Peregrine will attempt a soft landing on the lunar surface autonomously. The team will issue a landing sequence that will command the spacecraft to enter a descent orbit. About 15 kilometers from the lunar surface, an exciting powered descent begins. While we wait for the Peregrine spacecraft to separate from the Vulcan rocket and begin that exciting journey to the moon, I have Astrobotic's founder and Chief Executive Officer, John Thornton. Hi there, John. I understand you are currently at ULA, just a stone's throw from where I am now, and we both just saw ULA's Vulcan rocket achieve liftoff with our very own Peregrine aboard. Tell me, after waiting for this moment for years, how are you feeling?
It's a dream. This is the moment we've been waiting for 16 years, and I'm standing in mission control, and we just had a beautiful launch. Thank you, ULA. So excited. We are on our way to the moon.
I can tell you and everyone else are in a really excited buzz today for sure. So tell me, what else do you think is the most important thing about our Peregrine mission today?
So this is the beginning of the dawn of a new era for the surface of the moon and how we think about space. This is an opportunity for commercial payloads to fly to the surface of the moon on a regular, routine basis. That means our nation's scientists, our world scientists, can access the moon in ways never before possible. And we are seeing the beginnings of that right now as we speak on our journey to the surface of the moon. Our first mission carries 20 payloads from all over the world. 6 nations on board the mission will touch the surface of the moon for the very first time. It's a phenomenal, exciting mission to be a part of, and it's a real honor to be here today, and I could not imagine a better start to the mission.
That's true. And what do you have to say to the Astrobotic team and to all of the payload customers who made today's mission possible?
For 16 years, we've been pushing for this moment today. And along the way, we had a lot of hard challenges that we had to overcome, and a lot of people doubted us along the way. But our team and the people that supported us believed in the mission, and they created this beautiful moment that we're seeing today, working incredibly hard to make this possible. I can't thank the thousands of people between our team, our suppliers, our partners that have made this moment possible today. It's an unbelievable feat, and it is the culmination of all of everyone's effort coming together for this moment, believing in this possibility that a small company in Pittsburgh, of all places in this country, can lead America back to the surface of the moon.
Thank you, John. Well, I'll let you get back to the team that are in Florida with us as we wait for the Peregrine spacecraft to separate from Vulcan's rocket in about 30 to 40 minutes. For now, back to Megan.
Thanks, Olivia.
Oh, thank you.
Now, CLIPS missions are an important step in returning to and staying on the moon. But these lunar landings that will help shape our future there are not without risks.
Landing on the moon is hard.
we're going back. Under this Artemis program, we're going to be sending humans to the moon for the first time since Apollo. So ahead of humans, we want to get up as much science exploration and technology experiments as possible.
So CLIPS starts facilitating a lot of the early science, the things we want to learn before we even send humans. CLIPS stands for Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS.
The services part is the key element. Ordinarily, when NASA delivers a payload to the surface of the moon, they do it with a commercial partner, but NASA controls the building of the vehicle. Now, we're buying the service of delivery of our lunar payloads to the surface of the moon.
It is a delivery service, akin to a delivery service that you'd have here on Earth.
NASA will provide payloads to a commercial company. They decide how to get it to the moon. They have to develop their own lander, but they also have to manage the entire end-to-end mission.
It's meant to provide affordable, rapid, frequent access to the lunar surface through American companies.
We're funding different companies.
We have commercial companies that are competing to win task orders to deliver our payloads to the surface of the moon.
One of the goals when we started CLIPS was to help establish a lunar economy.
Somebody has to do it first, and then it becomes commercially available. Then they're able to crank them up. Then they're able to make it more affordable. And so the lunar surface is just the next frontier for a commercial environment.
But we had to acknowledge up front, all the way through the highest levels of the agency leadership, that some of them will fail. These missions may not be as successful as a traditional NASA mission.
We have accepted the risk that going through this innovative approach with these commercial companies, that there could be some failures. Some of them are new companies. None of them have ever successfully landed on the surface of the moon. So they're going to learn lessons.
We need to give our vendors the opportunity to learn.
And so that'll help ultimately buy down our risk as these companies learn, okay, what does it take to actually build up the lunar lander, integrate payloads, get to the lunar surface and land safely.
They've been able to demonstrate that they have very, very good technical depth and the ability to design and execute missions. We're willing to take more shots on goal. And we aren't risking human lives. And in the big picture, if we're flying missions at 1/10 of the cost of a NASA mission, and we fail 2 of them, we still get 8 missions for that same price.
Even with 1 or 2 or 3 failures, this is still a very economical proposition. It's a risk posture which is more risk tolerant than NASA is accustomed to. There's not a single one of these companies that's willing to bet their mission on a coin toss. Every one of them is doing what they can in order to have the most successful mission possible. But the important thing to realize is that risk tolerant does not mean risky. And the rewards are a long-term ability to get payloads to the moon inexpensively, frequently, and rapidly.
We want science, so we can then put more of our resources on even more science, exploration, and technology payloads and get more of a return on investment when we get to the moon.
CLIPS provides tremendous benefit across the scientific and economic communities.
So there's a lot we'd like to learn about the moon to help human habitation and prepare us for missions to Mars and beyond.
So the moon is the first step.
And a lot has to happen before Peregrine lands safely on the moon. Astrobotics' Olivia Chaplow shows how they tested the spacecraft here on Earth and what the team will do during its journey in space.
Peregrine has gone through quite a journey already and still has a long list of objectives to complete on its way to the moon. We've categorized these objectives into 5 stages, beginning with engineering it here on Earth. First, we built and tested a bolt-for-bolt engineering model of Peregrine. Based on our findings, we constructed the final spacecraft to send to the moon. Each iteration of Peregrine went through rigorous testing to ensure it will survive the harsh conditions of launch and space environments. Phase 2 objectives will begin when the spacecraft separates from the rocket. Once separated, Peregrine will power on and establish communications with Earth. At this stage, we'll receive telemetry informing us of the spacecraft's position, orientation, and general operational health. One of the first commands we send to the spacecraft will initiate thrusters to point Peregrine's solar panels at the sun to charge its battery. We are planning for all of these objectives to be completed today. Next, and off-camera, our Phase 3 objectives begin. These objectives include trajectory adjustment maneuvers in space before lunar orbit insertion. After lunar insertion, Peregrine will complete 3 orbits around the moon. Then, the last phase of the mission begins, lunar landing and operations.
And for a closer look at landing, I'm joined now by Mike Hennessy, Educational Director of the Moonshot Museum in Pittsburgh. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's spectacular to be here today.
Absolutely. We saw a launch, right?
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about Peregrine and the spacecraft. We have you on because you know a lot about Peregrine and this mission. Why is that?
Well, every day I've had a front row seat at Peregrine under construction. I work at the Moonshot Museum, and we share a wall of windows with Astrobotic. And better yet, I've seen kids with their faces pressed against the glass, knowing they're going to grow up to become that next generation of makers that take us to the moon.
That's fantastic. And you also brought us some props here. So these are different parts, different materials that make up the multi-layer insulation. That's what goes around the spacecraft, right?
Right. That's the thermal protective space blanket for the craft. And we have a number of different materials here. This is Astro Quartz. It's a woven ceramic fiber, very heat resistant. We've got aluminum, which is great for reflecting solar heat. And this is also aluminum. Glitters a little more like gold, but it's just aluminum that's been covered with a polymer called Kapton. And you can see it actually on our model here. We have of the Peregrine lander.
Right here. This is the multi-layer insulation.
Yeah, we've got the multi-layer insulation, and that's wrapping these fuel tanks, kind of like cosmic baked potatoes.
And why do we need all these different materials?
Well, the moon is a harsh environment, and it takes a lot of technical know-how to land there. There's no atmospheric blanket like we have on Earth. So we need a thermal space blanket to protect against wild temperature extremes, boiling hot days, freezing cold nights, several hundred degrees below zero, and Peregrine's been engineered to endure that.
Okay, so now we know how it will be protected during landing. How will it land? What technologies are we using to make sure that it lands safely when you say that the moon isn't the easiest place to land on?
Right, and that's my favorite part of the story because this robot is going to land itself. Because we have about a 2.5 second signal delay from the Earth to the moon and back, it's like having a self-driving car going to another world. We have a full suite of sensors, gyroscopes, Doppler, LiDAR, star trackers, and a really cool technology called Terrain Relative Navigation, or TRN. About 9 miles out, Peregrine will activate its camera, and as it's descending, and the camera is taking pictures, the computer will be playing kind of a high-speed game of flashcards, comparing those pictures to 3D maps, and then Peregrine will have to make decisions in order to come to a landing. We're going to test drive this technology on Peregrine, and then on Astrobotic's next lunar lander, Griffin, TRN will be in the driver's seat when we head to the moon's south pole.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know Griffin is going to be delivering another NASA payload, so another partnership where we get to do this together.
Yeah, I think another great example of how CLIPS is bringing together entrepreneurship and accelerating the pace of science and taking us out into the solar system.
Mike, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so the Astrobotic team hopes to land on the near side of the moon on February 23rd in a place called the Bay of Stickiness, a lunar feature formed by ancient hardened lava flow. It's located outside of the Gruithuisen Domes, which is the largest dark spot on the moon. Why does NASA want to conduct science here? Well, on Earth, formations like these domes need significant water and also plate tectonics to form. But without these key elements on the moon, lunar scientists have been left to wonder how the domes formed and evolved over time. We'll, of course, have coverage of the landing on our NASA Plus app or whichever social platform you watch us on. Now, earlier in the show, we told you about the NERVIS payload from NASA's Ames Research Center. The other payload from Ames is the Neutron Spectrometer System, or NSS.
I'm Rick Elphick. I'm the principal investigator of the Neutron Spectrometer System aboard the Peregrine 1 lander. NSS measures neutrons coming out of the lunar soil, and the neutrons tell you a lot about the makeup of the lunar soil. The neutrons that we measure with the neutron spectrometer are specifically related to the presence of hydrogen, the H in H2O, or water, and that's its real purpose, is to locate water, to actually act as a divining rod. Peregrine will be landing in a location where we really don't expect very much water, if any at all. But it's an interesting experiment. The exhaust system of its descent engines will actually spray paint the surface with its exhaust. And part of that exhaust is water, and some of that water is actually going to stick onto the surface of the moon. Then after we land, NSS can monitor how that water goes away as the sun rises at the landing site and the day gets warmer and warmer. Water is really important as a resource for exploration. Astronauts need it for drinking water, but you can also use it by splitting it up into hydrogen and oxygen as rocket fuel. So if you can find water in place where you're going to, that means you can use it there and not have to bring it up from Earth.
Now, NASA has 2 more payloads flying to the moon today. We're going to tell you about both of them in just a few minutes. But first, let's introduce you all to Chris Culbert, Program Manager for CLIPS out of NASA's Johnson Space Center. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Megan. Thank you. It's a wonderful day.
It is. We just watched the launch. What did you think?
It was amazing. Oh, my God. What a wonderful feeling. That rocket was gorgeous.
Yeah, and so NASA has 5 payloads hitching a ride. Tell me about the different things that they'll be studying and why they're studying those things.
So, this early mission for CLIPS, this is our first mission. So our first 2 early missions are mostly carrying small instruments that help us learn more about the environment at the moon. As we get further into CLIPS in future missions, we'll raise the complexity and start studying more complex, more difficult questions. But at the beginning, we're mostly trying to characterize what the moon is like, what the radiation does, what kind of environment we can find there. It doesn't have an atmosphere, but there's particles and dust and other things. We're trying to get more information about that so that we can help guide future human missions more effectively.
And how soon could we see data from some of those instruments so that we can start creating that fuller picture?
We'll start getting data back within hours of landing on the moon.
Wow.
Now, the scientists will need some time to analyze that information and turn it into the kind of information that helps guide future missions. But we should be getting data back from the moon within a few hours of landing, and we'll all three for as long as 14 days on the moon. We'll be gathering that data. But the scientists will then take that information offline and analyze it for a while.
So basically these missions, these instruments that we're sending, they're scouting the moon for us.
Yes. Yeah, they're telling us what the moon is like, helping us understand what we need to know so that we can take humans there safely. It also allows us to better design future instruments and other experiments that will pinpoint the kinds of things we need to know about the moon to be able to work and live there.
Chris, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're now less than a few minutes away until the Peregrine spacecraft separates from Vulcan Centaur upper stage. We're going to go back to ULA for that milestone, but before that, another quick status update on Peregrine from Olivia.
Thanks, Megan. And now I'm checking in on Astrobotic's mission control team. In about 20 to 30 minutes, they're expecting Peregrine to power on and then try to communicate with them on the ground. Peregrine will establish ground communications with NASA's Deep Space Network, and then we will begin receiving telemetry. As we wait for those milestones, here's an in-depth look at the inner workings of the Peregrine lunar lander.
And now we'll take a look at the Peregrine spacecraft. You'll notice that we've removed the MLI or multi-layer insulation so we can better see the inside of the spacecraft. Throughout Peregrine's journey, they'll keep an eye on the spacecraft's temperatures, pressures, power levels, and communication system. Solar panels at the top of Peregrine charge its batteries to power the spacecraft. Moving down towards the center of the spacecraft are the payload decks. You'll notice the decks have a unique isogrid pattern that we've used as an inspiration for a lot of our graphic design for the mission. This structure pattern optimizes the sturdiness of the payload decks while also minimizing its weight. Affixed to these decks are all 20 payloads. 20 individual pieces of cargo from 7 different countries are aboard these 2 main decks. Peregrine has 12 attitude control system engines, called thrusters, that are used to orient the spacecraft. You can see 4 large propellant tanks filled with monomethyl hydrazine and multiple mixtures of oxygen-nitrogen, or MON, as oxidizer. Mounted to the bottom of the spacecraft are 5 main engines that will slow the craft down as it approaches the lunar surface. These engines use a hypergolic bipropellant pressure-fed system. Believe it or not, Peregrine will use the majority of its fuel in the last 15 minutes of the mission as we attempt a soft landing on the lunar surface. Peregrine has 4 landing legs attached to its base. These legs have a honeycomb structure on the inside that will crush to absorb the impact of Peregrine landing on the lunar surface. Peregrine is designed for an autonomous landing. That means it will use complex computing and a suite of sensors instead of human pilots. There are 2 antenna relays and a high-power transponder to relay communications between the spacecraft and the astrobotic team. The relay will connect Peregrine with NASA's Deep Space Network, or DSN, utilizing the same dishes that communicate with the James Webb Space Telescope as well as other historic missions.
And the last major feature of Peregrine is something you can't see. It's the hundreds of people who have worked on, tested, and gotten the spacecraft to the launch pad today. A shout out to the team we like calling the Astrobots, and a shout out to our payload customers who are sending their items to the moon with us. Your continued commitment to science and lunar exploration is important for humanity. The Peregrine Lunar Lander has 20 pieces of cargo called payloads aboard. You can find the full manifest on the Astrobotics website, but here is a look at a few of the payloads. IRIS rover. This is a student-built rover with a mission to take photos and send them back to Earth as it drives across the lunar landscape. Once Peregrine lands on the moon, IRIS will deploy to the surface to begin its mission.
Right, here we go, guys. I am back. I've had a shower. I'm changed. I'm refreshed.
Comprised of 4 independent chambers and weighing a combined total of 10 ounces. It contains
Right, here we go.
hundreds of images, poems, music, nano objects, and earthly samples.
Nano objects.
Next, we have Colmena, a fleet of micro rovers and the first Latin American scientific instrument ever sent to the moon. Consisting of 5 small rovers, it will demonstrate a coordinated moon exploration. Lastly, we have the DHL Moonbox. Former astronaut Richard
DHL.
Garriott and thousands of others from around the world have sent small mementos to link life's meaningful moments with our nearest celestial neighbor. Now, this is just a snippet of the 20 payloads aboard Peregrine. Again, you can find the full list on Astrobotics' website. Now back to Megan.
We are now less than 10 minutes away from Peregrine separation, so let's get back over to the ULA team and Amanda.
There we go, 10 minutes.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks to those of you who are still following mission progress of ULA's Vulcan Cert 1 flight. For those who are just tuning in, I'm Amanda Sterling, and I'm here at ULA's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. ULA's inaugural Vulcan rocket lifted off on its first flight test at 2:18:38 a.m. Eastern, and all systems continue to operate nominally.
So it was doing a burn now, but using these little thrusters, basically. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And we've begun pressurizing the propellant tanks in preparation for second burn.
Oh no, it is actually generally the main engines that they use. Okay, that's quite cool.
On LH2 pre-start.
This is where it just starts tumbling and going crazy because one of the engines don't light.
LH2 pre-start.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 43 minutes, 8 seconds. Coming up next is the second main engine start of ULA's Centaur upper stage. Let's listen in.
Change to the start position, everything looking good. About 15 seconds to mess.
Alright, here we go. We're almost done.
We have ignition, full thrust, 2 good engines. Everything looking good.
Very shaky.
Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 43 minutes, 57 seconds. As we approach Peregrine separation, let's learn more about the first spacecraft to launch in NASA's new CLIPS initiative to have American companies send its science experiments to the moon.
Astrobotic is a full-service lunar company. It starts with our terrestrial testing and development services that can build propulsion systems and test propulsion systems on Earth, to the sensors that make precision landing possible, to our rovers that will deploy down on the surface.
We've already seen this.
To one day our power systems that will deploy on the moon and provide sustaining power for the infrastructure on the surface. Astrobotic is in all of those businesses, and we are in the business of making space accessible to the world, and the moon is just the beginning. The big thing that we're known for is our 2 lunar missions to go to the surface of the moon. Our first one is about to launch, and our second one flies in 2024. Peregrine mission is important because it's among the first commercial missions to return to the surface of the moon. This is the first time as a nation going back since Apollo. It's the first time for 6 nations that could land on the surface of the moon with our
That is
mission.
crazy.
This is the dawn of a new era of affordable, routine, regular access to the surface. What that means is our nations and world scientists can access the moon on a routine, regular basis. They don't have to wait for the culmination of their career for one single super mission. They can go back again and again and again. It's the beginnings of learning about the resources on the surface of the moon and potentially one day turning those resources into something that we can use in space and maybe one day return back here to Earth.
Peregrine's development was a years-long process that included many people, like engineers, welders, and technicians, who designed and built the spacecraft. Landing a spacecraft on the moon is very complex. The team worked long hours to get Peregrine to the launch pad.
To be on the pad today with our spacecraft strapped to a giant 200-foot tall launch vehicle ready to blast into the heavens it's a little surreal. It's a moment I've been dreaming
Yeah, look
about
how
for 16
big that
years.
payload
And to
fairing
see it
is
all
for
on one rocket, it's
how small the
terrifying
satellite
and
actually is.
exciting and thrilling all at once.
Our Peregrine lunar lander starts its journey to the moon in Florida on a Vulcan launch vehicle. That will blast us into translunar injection, heading us straight out to the moon, where we will enter lunar orbit and start our descent down to the surface. At this point, engines are firing, all eyes are tuned in, and as we soft touch down on the surface of the moon, that marks the beginning of our surface operations and our payloads deploying. As a nation and as a company, as individuals, we all persevere to overcome challenges, and we're going to continue to do that. And this first mission is just our first step, our first attempt to make space accessible to the world, and it certainly will not be our last.
It's very, very cool. Very cool little lander.
Pressures.
Oh.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 47 minutes 8 seconds. We're a few seconds from the second main engine cutoff. Here's Rob Gannon.
30 seconds to nominal MECO.
Nominal MECO. Technically it's MECO 2, because this is to be the second time these engines have shut down.
We're going to open loop on PU. Coming up on cutoff. We have cutoff. Everything is looking good.
Wouldn't it be great if we...
We're now in a 2-minute 49-second coast phase of spacecraft separation. We've got full settling going after MECO. And we're reorienting to spacecraft SEP attitude.
I was going to say, it looks like it's doing the... when the SpaceX do their Starlink launches, they spin the second stage. So then when they release the payloads, they kind of drift off away. And that is what this is doing right now.
And continuing to maneuver to our MES-2 attitude.
We are almost 1 minute away. Actually, we're 1.5 minutes away from separation. That is really cool animation, I have to say.
And we're inside 1.5 minutes to spacecraft separation. Body rates are nulling out.
So we are at T plus 49 and 26 seconds. So we are very close.
And this mission does call for a roll spin for spacecraft separation.
Yeah.
1 degree per second. We'll be
Half a
starting that
degree
maneuver
per
shortly.
half a degree per second. That's mad. That's for something that big. That's fast. That's really fast. Alright, here we go. We're coming up on 26 seconds mark. Right, here we go, guys. This should be 20 seconds away.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 50 minutes 10 seconds. Vulcan has executed all mission events expected, and we are now approaching delivery of the Astrobotic Peregrine commercial lunar lander into a highly elliptical orbit, more than 220,000 miles above Earth to intercept the moon. Let's return to flight commentator Rob Gannon
there
as
we
we
go.
approach separation.
We are spinning down.
Oh. She spoke over
And
it.
we are now in a 28-minute coast period, the third burn of Centaur.
Right, well there you go, guys. They did it. They have sent Peregrine. Difficult one to say this early in the morning. But they have sent Peregrine on its way to the moon. And if you want to carry...
Vulcan Mission Control
Excuse
at
me, can you be quiet?
51 minutes 6 seconds. We just heard confirmation of Peregrine spacecraft separation. I'm now back with ULA President.
Right, well, I'm going to pause that because now, guys, I am going to have to end the stream. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys want to watch the rest of it, go over to ULA's live stream or daily CFC focus if he is doing it. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for watching. That was a really good stream. I'm very happy with what happened with the rocket, although I kind of did want it to blow up. Just, you know, I fancied a bit of a fireball first launch, but hey, that was awesome. That was good. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I'm Lee. Fly safe, land safe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.